Columbo always catches the killer. 69 episodes across 4 decades of television, and the closing music never plays over an unsolved case. That is the contract the show makes with its audience, and it never breaks it. But there are 5 episodes where the audience does not want the contract honored. 5 cases where the person Columbo is about to arrest has done something the viewer understands so completely that the handcuffs feel like a punishment aimed at the wrong person. The killer is guilty, the evidence is clear, and the audience sitting at home is quietly hoping that, just this once, the detective will look the other way. The question is why? Because sympathy for a murderer is not a small thing. It requires the show to build something specific, a version of events where the killing feels like the only available response to an intolerable situation. And every time the show does that, it leaves something out. Someone the audience has been invited to forget. These 5 cases are about what the show makes you feel, who it erases to make you feel it, and what happens when Columbo refuses to let the erasure stand.
It was good, wasn't it?
Superb.
That's the important thing.
And equally superb was...
Start with Adrian Carsini. In Any Old Port in a Storm, Carsini is a wine expert played by Donald Pleasance, whose knowledge of his subject is so deep and so genuine that Columbo spends half the episode learning from him. Carsini kills his half-brother Rick because Rick has inherited half the family winery and plans to sell it, which would destroy a collection Carsini spent his entire adult life assembling. Every bottle in that cellar represents a decision about soil, weather, timing, and patience. Rick has no interest in any of it. He wants cash. And the episode makes certain you know how little Rick cares by showing him as crude, dismissive, and completely indifferent to the thing his brother loves most.
But a great wine is like a great work of art. It has to be nurtured. It has to be taken care of.
The sympathy mechanism is mastery versus indifference. You watch Carsini talk about wine with the kind of knowledge that takes decades to build, and then you watch Rick treat the collection like an inconvenient asset on a spreadsheet. The emotional math the episode sets up is clear. One man has devoted his life to something extraordinary. The other man is about to destroy it for money he does not need. By the time Carsini acts, a significant portion of the audience has already decided that Rick had it coming.
But, sir, I think that,
This wine has been oxidized by overheating. Where did you keep it? On top of the stove?
I assure you, Miss...
But Rick is a person. He is crude, and he is dismissive, and he is careless with something his brother values. None of those things carry a death sentence. The episode builds so much sympathy for Carsini's passion that Rick becomes a cardboard obstacle rather than a human being, and the audience accepts the substitution because the wine cellar is more interesting than the man who wanted to sell it. Columbo does not accept the substitution. He admires Carsini, genuinely, and the arrest at the dinner table is one of the quietest and most painful in the series. But it happens, because a man is dead, and the reason he died does not change what his death was.
Well, anyway, I don't think we'll be seeing one another again.
Tommy Brown in Swan Song is a different kind of sympathy entirely. Brown is a gospel singer played by Johnny Cash, and his situation is about as far from Carsini's cultured desperation as the show ever travels. Brown is trapped. His wife Edna controls their ministry, takes every dollar from his concerts, and holds a past indiscretion over him as permanent leverage. He is not free, and has not been free for years. When he finally acts, he drugs Edna aboard a small plane, straps on a parachute, and jumps. The plane crashes. Edna dies.
You take half the money for the crusade, and I'll take half.
Every penny goes to the crusade until
You can push a man too far, Edna. I'm being used, and I don't like it.
the Lord works in mysterious...
The sympathy here is built on confinement. The audience watches Brown perform under conditions that look like servitude, and by the time he kills Edna, the feeling in the room is closer to relief than horror. He escaped. He did something terrible to do it, but he escaped. The show earns that response by making Edna genuinely monstrous. She is controlling, vindictive, and completely uninterested in Brown as a person. She wants the income he generates and the power his talent gives her. When she dies, the audience is not sad.
Do
you did it. You killed both of them. You're fired. Get out of here.
I'm not going to try to tell you that Edna and I did.
But there was a backup singer on that plane. She had nothing to do with the conflict between Brown and his wife. She was not part of the exploitation. She was not holding anything over anyone. She boarded a plane for a concert and died because Tommy Brown needed his exit to look like an accident. The show does not dwell on her. It cannot afford to, because the moment you think about the backup singer for more than a few seconds, the sympathy for Brown starts to collapse. His situation was real. His suffering was real, and his solution killed an innocent person who never had a choice in the matter. Columbo catches Brown quietly, at night, near the crash site. There is sadness in the arrest, but no apology for it.
But if some guy thought he was going to put you to sleep at the controls and kill you in a plane crash, he might have gotten careless with his fingerprint.
If you are finding this analysis useful, subscribing helps the channel continue producing these deep dives into classic television. Freestone in Make Me a Perfect Murder occupies a space the series rarely explores. Played by Trish Van Devere, Freestone is a network executive whose lover and boss, Mark McAndrews, takes a promotion to New York and leaves her behind. The abandonment is professional and personal at the same time, because Freestone gave her career, her time, and her loyalty to a man who treated all three as things he could pick up and put down whenever they stopped being convenient. When McAndrews leaves, he does not just end the relationship. He makes it clear that everything Freestone built inside that relationship has no value outside of it.
I know I had that paper somewhere.
Why is there no doubt about it?
We know the angle. I think you changed the footage counter to place yourself in the projection booth at the time of the murder.
The sympathy mechanism is betrayal by someone who held all the power. Freestone is not wealthy, she is not privileged. She is a woman who played by rules that were never designed to protect her, and when the person who set those rules decided he was done, she had nothing. The audience understands her fury because the imbalance is visible in every scene they share. McAndrews is casual about what he is destroying. Freestone is devastated by it. By the time she kills him, a portion of the audience has decided he deserved what he got.
And then there's the gun. Mr. McAndrews' gun. The gun that...
But deserving to be resented, even deserving to be hated, is not the same as deserving to die. McAndrews used Freestone. He discarded her. He was selfish and careless with someone who gave him more than he gave back. Those are real injuries, and they would be grounds for walking away, for starting over, for building something on her own terms. They are not grounds for murder. The episode builds the case for Freestone's pain so effectively that the audience forgets this distinction, and Columbo, who never forgets it, becomes the unwelcome reminder.
But this gun... This is the gun that you murdered him with.
Grace Wheeler in Forgotten Lady is the case that comes closest to breaking the show's own rules. Played by Janet Leigh, Wheeler is a former musical star whose mind is failing. She has a degenerative brain condition that is erasing her memories and her judgment. She kills her husband Henry because she needs money for a comeback that she genuinely believes is still possible. A comeback the audience can see will never happen because the woman planning it cannot reliably remember the conversations she had that morning.
Why the additional 15 minutes? That's the question that first turned my suspicions toward Miss Wheeler. It has to be about it. That is a progressive memory disease that knocks out the memory cells. You can recall things from a long time.
The sympathy here is built on cruelty that has no author. There is no villain in Wheeler's story. There is no exploitative spouse, no dismissive sibling, no selfish lover. There is just a woman losing her mind, and a husband who loved her and supported her and became the obstacle between her and the last thing she thought she wanted. The audience watches Wheeler plan and execute a murder while clearly not understanding the full weight of what she is doing, and the feeling is closer to grief than judgment. She is guilty and she is dying, and the two facts sit on top of each other in a way the show has never attempted before.
I don't believe that she even remembers killing him.
Henry Wheeler is the victim the audience forgets most completely in all 5 of these cases, because the show gives them permission to. Henry is barely present. He exists as a gentle, supportive figure whose death registers as a plot point rather than a loss. But he was married to Grace for decades. He stood by her through the decline. He did not leave. He did not exploit her. He was the person holding the last functional pieces of her life together, and she killed him for money she would never have been able to spend on a career she would never have been able to resume. Columbo's response to this case is the most unusual in the entire series. He does not pursue the arrest with his usual quiet determination. He recognizes that Wheeler's condition will deliver a consequence more thorough than any courtroom could impose, and he steps back. Whether that constitutes mercy or abdication depends on whether you believe justice requires a formal process or whether the outcome is what matters.
This has gone on long enough. I killed Henry. I took the gun out of the glove compartment.
Phyllis was drowned.
Abby, please don't.
I love my niece with all.
Abigail Mitchell in Try and Catch Me is the strongest case of the 5 because the sympathy is the hardest to argue against and the victim is the easiest to dismiss. Played by Ruth Gordon at 79 years old, Mitchell is a mystery novelist whose niece Phyllis was murdered by Edmund Galvin. Galvin married Phyllis for her money and killed her. The legal system failed to produce a conviction, or the evidence was insufficient, or both. Mitchell invited Galvin to her home, lured him into a walk-in safe, locked the heavy door, and let him suffocate inside.
You murdered my Phyllis. Do you really think I didn't know?
The sympathy mechanism is the most direct in the series. A killer went free. The system that was supposed to deliver justice did not. A 79-year-old woman decided to deliver it herself. The audience watches Mitchell plan and execute a murder against a man the show has already identified as a murderer, and the moral math seems straightforward. He killed her niece. He got away with it. She made sure he did not get away with it forever. If you accept the premise that Galvin was guilty and the system failed, Mitchell is not a murderer. She is a correction.
I'm beginning to be very fond of you, Lieutenant. I think you're a very kind man.
But the premise requires accepting that one person can determine guilt and impose a death sentence without process, without review, without the possibility that the determination is wrong. Galvin is presented as guilty. The show tells you he is guilty. Mitchell believes he is guilty and acts on that belief with absolute certainty. The audience, trusting the show and trusting Mitchell, agrees. But the mechanism Mitchell used, personal conviction backed by lethal force, is the same mechanism that every wrongful killing in history has used. The difference between justice and murder, in cases where the legal system has failed, is supposed to be process. Mitchell skipped the process, and the show rewards her with a performance so warm, so funny, so defiant that the audience cheers. Columbo does not cheer. The final scene between the two of them is one of the most painful in the series. Mitchell asks him to look the other way. The pause before he answers tells you everything about what this arrest costs him. He respects her. He may even agree with her about Galvin. But he does not confuse respect with permission, and he does not confuse his own feelings about the victim with the law's obligation to treat every killing as a killing. The arrest happens with visible pain on both sides, and the audience feels the pain because by now they are on Mitchell's side, and Columbo is the one standing in the way of what feels like justice.
Murdered by Abigail Mitchell. Deathbed testimony.
That is the trick all 5 of these episodes play. The show constructs a version of events where the killing feels like the least wrong option in a set of terrible choices. It does this by controlling what you see. Rick's indifference to the wine cellar, Edna's cruelty to Tommy Brown, McAndrews' casual disposal of Kay Freestone, the empty cruelty of Grace Wheeler's illness, the system's failure to punish Edmund Galvin. In each case, the victim either deserved something or the circumstance was unbearable, and the show makes sure you feel the weight of the situation before it shows you the killing. But Columbo is the character who refuses to let the framing do the work. He sees what the audience sees. He understands the wine, the marriage, the betrayal, the illness, the grief, and he arrests them anyway, because understanding why someone killed is not the same as accepting that they had the right to do it. The victim the audience forgot is still dead. The backup singer who had nothing to do with the argument is still dead. The husband who stood by his wife for decades is still dead. Sympathy does not bring them back, and sympathy was never supposed to replace the question of whether the killing was justified. Which of these 5 killers do you think had the strongest case for sympathy? Tell me in the comments, and if this kind of character analysis is what you look for in a classic television channel, subscribing makes sure the next one reaches you.